So welcome back to my channel. This is Gamer Dom, and welcome to all the new subscribers. I hope you take a chance to look at some of the videos and didn't just come to win freebies, but hopefully you come and look at some of the videos and participate in the chat and enjoy. Anyway, upcoming in this world, this rambles from me, so lots and lots of things to get over, and you can see, you'll see, the astute of you will see that I've moved the launch of this video forward today. I normally do rambles on a Friday. I'm putting this out on a Thursday, and that's mainly because the new patch. The new patch hit the Russian servers. I was going to say Soviet servers. The Russian servers yesterday, the 2nd of May, and should, if all things go according to plan, have hit the EU server and the North American server today, Thursday, the 3rd of May. Unfortunately, no idea when the Southeast Asian guys will get it. Generally, it's a week or two after the event, which is, I never understand, but yeah, I feel sorry for you guys down there. So the new patch will have hit the servers, which brings the new Italian tanks, etc, etc, etc. So lots more other stuff to discuss in this this rambles. A couple of new premium tanks in the pipeline, one American, one British. Well, sort of new, they're both pretty much reworks of old ones, and a third that's a definite rework of a Russian one in production. We'll look at discussion around some of the map changes and new maps that are coming to the game. There's also a little bit of a look at a new Grand Battles map, and talking about that, Frontline is coming with this patch, and there's a new mechanic there as well. So lots of good stuff. So let's get going. So we always love to hear what is in the minds of the developers. Do they even have minds? Are they in their right minds? No, I'm being unfair. I have to say, one of the nice things about World of Tanks, you know, I don't have a huge amount of experience with different games. I've never played one as long as I have World of Tanks, but they do seem kind of, they try at least to keep us up to date with what they're working on. And I like that, because I think that's important. It makes you feel part of the community. So, you know, big ups to Wargaming for that, even if they do piss us off with an awful lot of other things. So, a lot of talk about maps. And they're saying here, based on the surveys, overall players liked all the reworked maps. And I have to say, personally, from a personal perspective, yeah. I really like them. I think they're great, and there's some annoyances. There's some little things that, you know, places where you used to go to that aren't there anymore, you can't reach anymore, but then again, they're balanced out by, I found a new one on Corellia the other day that I didn't know existed, and it's fantastic. It's a lovely little position. So I guess it's just part of the relearning of you know, what once were familiar maps. So not a bad thing at all. So yeah, overall thumbs up from me. Love to know what you think down in the chat down below, what you think about the new maps. There are plans to rebalance 10 maps, but no complete reworks at the moment, just light balance changes. So yeah, the new Polish map, Sudienski. People have moaned about my pronunciation. I'm British, I'm crap at anything foreign. Connected with the Poland tech tree coming out, so that will be coming out whenever that is, which I believe will be later this year. The rumor was around about Polish Independence Day, which I believe is September time, somewhere around there, that the Polish tech tree will come in, and with it will come this new Polish map. And I showed it on the channel a while back in beta test. It does look quite a nice one. It's got a lot more open space in it, a little bit of building work, so you can sort of do a bit of sniping and what have you around it, but overall pretty good. Kharkov, that was the map that was withdrawn. The city map was drawn last time because it was just shite. Two plans to rework it and change it. Yeah, I mean, it needed some serious work. It was a horrible... Actually, to be fair, I don't think that was as horrible as some of the others, but it was not a great map. And mainly because if you got in it in something that just couldn't cope, if you were in heavy a heavy tank with lots of armor, or a TD with lots of armor, it wasn't an issue. It was quite a fun tank. But if you were in a lightweight TD, for instance, you were screwed on that map. So yeah, something that allows a bit. That's what I love in all maps. I want maps that give us something for all classes of vehicles. Doesn't matter what they look like, as long as they have opportunities for all the different classes to perform in them. I like that new Glacier map because that is a classic example. There are places where all the tanks can go, and it isn't just all the heavies have to go one way and all the mediums must go this way. There are places where all the heavies tend to go already, but it's a much more fluid map, and I like that, and I want to see more of that. I don't know whether you guys agree. They have plans to revive some of the old maps. Now, I did hear, yeah, here we go, and maybe even Port. Remember the Port one? That was the one with, funny enough, a port in it, and it had a sort of flyover thing, didn't it? It was a weird map. But they're looking at some of these old maps and seeing whether they can rework them, which again, thumbs up from me. But Dragon Ridge is one apparently that will not be reworked. Don't know what they have about Dragon Ridge, but apparently that one is not in consideration. Okay. Wargaming is working on an urban, rural and some specific regional maps. Well, my view, as anybody who watches this channel regularly, is always you can never have too many maps, full stop. I want maps in rotation that I just don't see, well, so that I don't see the same one time and time again. So more maps, don't care where they're from, don't care what nationality they are, they don't care whether they're winter, summer, autumn, who cares, just more maps please. Havoc brought the opportunity to bring new things. That's intriguing. Wargaming don't promise to bring any or all of them, but they're looking into night battles, new destruction features, possibly weather, and if players like it, they might get introduced. So mixed feelings on things like weather and night battles. From a historical perspective, undoubtedly, from an accuracy perspective, I mean, undoubtedly a good way to go. But this is a game, and imagine you've taken out your super lightweight TD, use that example again, and you click on the battle, and suddenly you get a night battle on Himmelsdorf. What the hell are you going to do? You're just screwed, and I don't see as a game that is any fun. Now, maybe in some kind of game against AI, possibly, where that you'll be taking out a main battle tank, and therefore having weather and night makes it more challenging rather than just blowing up AI that's coming at you. But as a sort of a multiplayer competitive type game, night battles and weather worry me a bit. I just think it will be incredibly frustrating at times. Now that said, I play World of Warships, haven't played it for a while now, but they have weather in that, and it reduces the visibility down. It doesn't seem to damage things too much, but then World of Warships is about an engagement that is much further away than World of Tanks, even at the longest ranges in World of Tanks longest ranges, and probably nowhere near what the short range are on World of Warships. So yeah, weather and night seems a nice option, but I'm not entirely sure it's gonna be good from a gameplay perspective. That's all I'm gonna say. So this year, from now on, new content is the priority, and Wargaming is planning quite a lot in the near and medium future. Well, that's exciting. So they've had the whole mechanics changes, they've had the rebalancing stuff, so now it looks like new stuff is on its way, which is fine. And first up, probably one of the early ones anyway, will be the new personal missions 2.0 they're calling it, which is great. Being worked on now and will be released this year. Now, they have said previously that the old set of missions will continue alongside the new missions. I don't know how that will work, whether you have to choose one or the other, but whatever. I think that's a good option. For those who want to continue doing the first set of missions, then fantastic. for those of us who've got completely stuck and aren't really achieving anything, it'd be nice to have some new missions to achieve, and you know, obviously some new free tanks that we can pick up, because I quite like all the, apart from the Stug, I quite like all the other tanks that they gave out on that one. Haven't got to the object yet, unfortunately. That's the one I'm stuck on. New game features and new game mode will be introduced this year. So they're talking about Frontline as a game mode. I think that's almost certainly going to come out very, very shortly. They've talked again in the past about historical battles, which for those of you who've been around a little while in the game, that was something they introduced some time ago and then withdrew because it just never worked in the way they wanted it, because players didn't want to play the Panzer III in a game where they were up against KV-1s and things like that. Surprise, surprise. You know, in historic battles you needed a spread of vehicles. Now, I personally have said for a long time that historic battles would be far better if it was against AI, so you could log in, drive your Tiger 1, a historic Tiger 1 of course, up against, you know, a wall of enemy AI controlled T-34s and whatever else Russian tanks would come at you, which I think would be a far better game. So hopefully they'll introduce something like that. It'd be nice to see a sort of a where you're cooperating with team members against AI. I think that would be a fun feature to bring in. I'd like to see that. They've done a lot of that in World of Warships, and I think it works really well there, so why not in World of Tanks? Crews will be completely reworked, and Wargaming is trying to bring this in this year, but it depends how it goes. Now, I think hopefully they take a lot more time on this. I talked about this some time ago on Rambles. So the challenge with the crews as it stands at the moment is the barrier, or not the barrier for entry, but the sort of the barrier for entry for newer players is so tough. And the problem with the game at the moment is that it's very top heavy in terms of its player base. There's far more players who've been with the game a long time and have, you know, playing from tier 8 upwards type battles than there are in the lower tiers. And the problem is a lot of the newer players coming in are being put off either by the fact they don't kind of understand the mechanics, or they're being wiped out by, you know, people seal clubbing down at the lower tiers, and they lose interest in the game very very rapidly, and we're not getting enough new blood coming through into the game. And Wargaming themselves have talked about this. It's the balance of the playership is in those sort of higher tier areas. That's where most games, that's why the whole tier 8 matchmaking system is completely screwed up. I was going to say a very rude word there. It's completely screwed up because there's just so many tier 8s in the game that they have to find a way to balance that out. So often they come up against, you know, the tier 10s all the time. But the crews, as we know, they are the secret to this game. You know, the tanks are one thing, but having a decent crew in the vehicle is a huge advantage. And things like Sixth Sense are incredibly useful. And they've got to do something to rework the crew skills, because there's a lot of tanks driving around with all the useful crew skills and don't really need what's left. So they need a new challenge. But also newer players coming in, why not have automatic Sixth Sense, or allow them to generate new crew skills? Now there's a whole issue around, you know, what do we do with all the time and in some cases money you've spent with your crews as they are at the moment? You know, if you've got a 5 skill crew sitting in your E100 and they suddenly say, well, we're reworking this completely again and we're wiping out all those skills, people are going to be justifiably angry. So this is going to be a real thorn for them to grasp, and I'm not quite sure how they're going to manage this. Definitely in my mind something needs to change with crews. There needs to be a way that newer players can be encouraged to get better crews quicker. So that's a thing, definitely. And the difference between I mean, if you have any doubt at all, I would urge you guys, just take out a tank that you have, put a 50% crew in it, and drive it out. Then put your original 100% crew back in it and drive it out, and see what the difference is. It is quite astounding. I did it not that long ago when I was grinding through, I forget which one it was now, one of the tiers, and I just didn't want to spend any silver or gold on keeping the crew up high level, and so my crews dropped down to about 60%, I think, or something like that. And the difference in the performance of those vehicles was astounding, and I don't think I'd even realised how much difference there was. So if you want to laugh, take a 50% crew out and see how well you do in it. Anyway, by the by, so crews will be reworked. They're saying this year. My personal guess is this won't be this year. It's going to be really tough to get it right, and frankly I would rather they took time over it than rushed it. Several in-game events planned for this year, so I'm guessing you've got I'm not a big football fan, but isn't there, the European Cup is in Russia, plus the World Cup is in Russia. Those will be two things I almost guarantee there'll be some sort of in-game event for. So last time in the was it the World Cup or was it European Cup, in European Championships in Germany, they did that football game, 3-a-side football game with tanks, which was kind of fun. So I watch this space. I imagine there'll be something like that coming up. Now KV5, this will be of interest to a lot of people like me who haven't really driven their KV5s for a long time. KV5, the tier 8 Russian premium heavy tank with preferential matchmaking. Now we know Wargaming are trying to remove preferential matchmaking from the game. We know that tanks like the KV5 have really struggled since the new matchmaking system came in. The KV5 is just incapable of going up against a lot of the current tier 8s in the game. It's really a 7.5 tank, and probably not even that. And when the gold inevitably gets fired everywhere, this thing just dies really quickly. And it's, you know, it used to be a beast. I did all my heavy tank 15 missions in the KV5 up till the third set of missions, and it was just fun to play. I just loved playing it. I never take it out anymore. It's just no fun. You just drive out and you go, oh, there's a defender, there's a object, whatever it is, and you got no chance of killing it. And you know, even with your premium rounds, you can't pen anything, and they just pen you time and time again until you just die. And it's just dull. So they're looking at how do they rework all these preferential matchmaking tanks so that they can be changed in some way. And we know that Wargaming are loath to change premium tanks because of the legal implications in some jurisdictions. And they've looked at they're looking at various options, and they're using the KV5 as a guinea pig here. They're looking at maybe upgunning it, they're looking at up armoring it, they're looking at a whole range of things to do with it. And their first sort of tranche of those changes will be coming in very soon, and they're going to be trying them out on the super test. So I will watch with interest to see what they do with the KV5. I would love to be able to take the old bird out, but equally if they can't get it right, then just give me my money back. I'll be happy with that. So somewhat unexpectedly, at least from the blogs and everything I'd seen anyway, the French tanks are also getting a bit of a buff in the upcoming patch, or the patch that happened today. So particularly around accuracy, you can see here the tier 5, the tier 6 and the tier 7 have all had buffs around accuracy of the gun, aim time improvements, etc, etc. So that will be well welcomed by those who are stuck using those things. So you can see the BDR, the tier 5, better aim time, and reduced radical increase when the turret and the chassis and everything else move. That's shot scatter, so that's accuracy, so 0.4 to 0.38 is nice. Reload time down by quite a bit actually, 9.5 to 8.8, very good indeed. Hit points with the turret increased as well, so definitely a buffing there. The tier 6, the ARL 44, which I know is a favourite of a lot of people anyway, better radical control basically when the vehicle's moving. Also when the turret traverses. Aim time better as well, from 2.9 to 2.7. Penetration also going up for the 105mm from 165 to 175, so that's welcome. The tier 7, which has always been a bane of many people's lives, although I actually quite liked it myself. Again, aim time, the radical when the turret and the hull are moving, is improved. Aim time for the 105mm from 2.9 down to 2.7. Aim time for the 90mm from 2.9 to 2.5. That's very impressive. Aim time for the top 105 from 2.9 to 2.7, and increased penetration for the 105mm from 165 to 175, like on the RL44. So if you're in the French line, heavy French line, that will be welcome. So this is a new premium American medium tank. This is the T26E3. Currently in super test. Looks just like a Pershing, doesn't it? Exactly like a Pershing. So this is going to be a tier 7 American medium tank, not to be confused with the T26E3, although they look pretty much identical. It just looks like archetypal American medium tank, doesn't it? It's an interesting beastie. Let's have a look at some of the stats here. So here we go. Penetration of 172, damage of 240, so that's a pretty standard 90mm gun. Damage per minute 1800, which is okay for a tier 7. Reload time of 7.8, rate of fire 7.6, view range of 390, which is excellent for a tier 7. Camo value while stationary is 22.2, which is actually pretty good for a medium. That's very good. Accuracy of 3.6 is, yeah. Aim time of 2.21. Gun depression of -10 is nice. Turret traverse of 37.5. Chassis of 36, so nothing spectacular there. Power of the engine is 500 horsepower. 12.69 power ratio, so not exactly a speedster getting away, and only a 36 top speed, so not great from that point of view. What's that, 1200? Yeah, 1200 hit points. That's a lot, isn't it? That can't be right. That must be wrong. 1200 hit points for a tier 7 medium is just too many. That's got to be wrong. Armor, frontal armor is 101 on the hull, 76 on the side. Front of the turret is 101 as well, and 76 on the side, so identical in that sense. Yeah, so it looks like a fairly standard American medium tank. It's a nice looking vehicle. And tier 7 and tier 9 are where it's at the moment with the new matchmaking, so it has that advantage for it, I guess. So we'll see. It's only super test, it's only early days, so we'll see what, if anything, reappears. There's plenty of tanks that have gone into super test and never seen the light of day, so we'll see whether this one does. So this is getting really silly now. We're getting more and more cloned versions of the same sort of tanks coming into the game. So this is a Centurion 5/1 premium tier 8 medium British medium tank. Did I say medium twice there? It's basically just another Centurion 1 or Strava 81 Prima Victoria. Basically it's exactly the same. It's effectively, this is an Australian vehicle, which is probably why they're justifying bringing it out. But you look at the stats, it is basically exactly the same as all the others. A couple of minor tweaks, differences. It has the same shell velocity as the standard Centurion 1, but not as good as the Prima Victoria. I think that's the Prima Victoria fires APCR as standard, if memory serves. Otherwise exactly the same. Now interesting, the 5/1 is better gun handling when on the move. So when moving it's 0.17 as opposed to 0.19 on the other two. Tank traverse is also better, and turret traverse is also slightly better. But to be honest, I don't find they're particularly bad anyway, so slight improvement, yeah, big so what. What's interesting is it does have a bigger engine, so I don't know whether the Aussies just like it big, misses. So it does have slightly more power, which is really intriguing. So the Prima Victoria has a 900 horsepower engine. The standard Centurion has a 750. This thing will have a 950, but it weighs a lot more as a result. But still, the power ratio goes up 18.63 with this 5.1, as opposed to 16.7 with the standard Tech Tree tank. No difference in terms of any ground resistance or anything else, but it does mean that you get to that top speed of 50 much quicker, which, you know, I've said before, I quite like. To me, power to weight ratio is probably one of the most important stats for tanks that are going to have to reposition quickly once spotted. So yeah, interesting. Hull armor is actually better than everybody else's, 120.7 on the front. The others are 276, but still not fantastic, but 120 is better. Turret is identical. Engine health is as bad as the Prima Victoria, so there's no difference there. It also has slightly less hit points, so better armor but 50 less hit points. So otherwise it is pretty much the same. So they're saying, basically, this is MMOW.net talking about this tank. They're saying the benefits of this 5.1 is that it has the same power as the Centurion 1, very good accuracy, high penetration, 226 millimeters with standard round, and better armor. Drawbacks: less hit points, well, only 50. Limited gun depression, well, they're all the same. It's no different, is it? Let me just check that. Gun depression of 10, you know, so identical on that. And reduced acceleration, well, actually it's better acceleration, surely. It says here it's got 18.6 as opposed to 16.7, so it's better, so they got that wrong. Anyway, I guess the thing that annoys me a bit is this just pretty much a standard clone of other tanks in the game, and this seems to be happening time and time again at the moment with Wargaming, milking us players to get new premiums. That said, if you like Centurions, you like British tanks, then maybe this is one for you. If you wanted, I know some players who just like playing the British tanks, and or they like playing whatever their nationality is of tanks and nothing much else. So if you like British tanks and you didn't want to buy the Prima Victoria because it was a Swedish tank, maybe this is the one for you, even though it's not really British, it's Australian. So this will excite, intrigue, scare a lot of British tank followers and players who love just playing the British tanks. I'm thinking about you, Black Wolf. The Sherman Firefly apparently is in super test at the moment. They're looking at rebalancing it. Yeah, that's a scary thing. Mostly they seem to be looking at improving its gun, which I didn't. So this is a tier 6 medium tank. It's got a 17-pounder British gun on the front, on basically a tier 5 Sherman's hull. And for me, at least, and you know, let me know down below whether you disagree, but I think the gun is actually pretty effective. It's quite a good gun. I've never seemed to have any particular problem with mine, but they seem to be looking to improve the gun at the expense of mobility. And to me, the mobility was the bit that sucked. So anyway, so damage per minute up slightly to 2085.7 from 1997. So tiny increase though there. Mainly that's down to improvements to the reload time. 4.315 down from 4.547. So little bit of a drop there, little bit of an increase in rate of fire, just about hitting 14 rounds per minute from 13.3. Accuracy also improved, 0.355 from 0.364, which is always welcome. Turret traverse speed 48 from 43.8, so that's good as well. Hull traverse 43 from 40, so again increased, but the engine power's dropped 400 horsepower engine down from 460, which means its power ratio drops from 13.82 to 12.05, and its maximum speed actually goes up to 43 from 40, so it's slower to get away, but it has a slightly higher top speed. I think for me, those, yeah, we have to see what the ground resistances do. It seems a fairly sluggish medium to me anyway, and actually I always think the power ratio, the specific power ratio, is a far more important stat for that kind of tank that needs to get away quickly. It's that moment when you're spotted and you just want to gun the engine and get out. If it takes a while for you to move, any length of time longer than the necessary, you're more likely to be hit by shells. So dropping the power ratio but increasing the top speed is not something I'm particularly keen on, but hey, this is super test, so it may not come out. So changes to the aiming circle after various actions, basically improving it. So yeah, it's we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see whether this actually comes out. They are in the mood for rebalancing a lot of tanks, and they have said in the past that they've done tier 8s and now start looking at other tanks as well. So it looks like the Firefly is one of those in the queue in terms of looking at and adapting. So let me know what you think. Better accuracy versus better acceleration. That's the main change on that I can see. Basically, you get a better gun but a slightly worse acceleration. Is that a good trade-off? So this is a slightly weird thing. Again, Wargaming did say that they're looking at new content, but this is just a rehash of old content. In Super Test at the moment, a screened version of the T-34, the Tier 5 Soviet medium tank. This would be a premium tank. Apparently it has some historical accuracy. They basically started to find ways of armoring these T-34s, particularly to counter the German 75mm heat shells. So you can see here it's basically a T-34 with extra plating on the side and skirts on the outside. Let's have a look at this in a bit more detail. There you go. Not sure what I think about it, really. I love T-34 generally, so I'll probably end up having to buy this just because it's a T-34 variant. Yeah, it's it says here that these initially designed to improve protection. The screen version of the T-30 were handmade by the engineers and tankers themselves. Additional armor plates jerry-rigged over the regular armor were a common frontline solution. There are also attempts to manufacture reinforced concrete screens. Although factory-made screens were never entered production, they underwent battle testing. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with this. Is there any other changes? I don't think there are on this tank. Okay, so the 76mm gun fires APCR standard. But otherwise it's largely the same as the standard T-34, so yeah, no stats on it. So interesting, we shall see. It's a T-34, so I'll probably end up buying it, but it's only a tier 5, so it's not going to really create much of a stink out there. But interesting, and kind of, I suppose the only thing slightly worrying is that they're continuing with this theme of rather than developing new tanks, they're just adapting old ones. Rather, lazy. So the last Rambles I talked about the upcoming premium heavy Polish tier 8 tank that they're proposing to bring out, the WZ-51. I won't even try and say the first bit of the name. Looks to be a bit of a brute, slow moving, heavily armoured with a pretty reasonable gun. Someone was it Quickie Babe, I think, was actually suggesting it was kind of like a defender. If that's the case, then people will be falling over themselves to buy this damn thing. I'm sure it will be very popular because there is a very, very large Polish community, and the idea that this thing will come out in advance of the new Polish tech tree, so presumably sometime around the summertime. It's in super test, so maybe it'll be sooner than that, I don't know. But they've tweaked some of the stats that we looked at before, so they've decreased the number of hit points by 50. Everything else remains the same. Pretty, yeah, I mean, view range of 380 is okay. Power to weight ratio of 14.33 is actually pretty good. Top speed of only 35. Armor, hull 170, 90 and 80. Turret 210, 150, 100. And you can see it's got an enormous set of tracks here, so they're going to absorb a lot of shells. But then the main changes have been around the gun, accuracy and dispersion. It uses a 122mm gun that does 440 alpha, 218 standard pen, 245 with skill rounds, rate of fire 4.6, giving you a base DPM of 2039, which is very, very good. So fires quicker than Defender, so if it is a Defender light tank, this thing's going to be seriously good. We'll have to see. This is all super tests, so bear that in mind. These things can, and as you see, have changed. So they've reduced its accuracy from 0.345 to 0.36, so clearly it was just too good at that. And aim time, however, has improved from 3.26 to 2.68. So you'll require your target much quicker, be able to fire quicker, but accuracy will be a lot worse. Well, not a lot worse, 0.02. Gun depression is excellent, -10 is very, very good. Also, dispersion when moving goes from 0.173 to 0.211, so again less accurate when when moving. Also when changing the turret, the hull, the turret. Your max speed, gun dispersion when at max speed is also worse, from 6.04 to 7.38, and dispersion when rotating the hull at full speed is also gone from 6.56 to 8.02. So looking at those stats, I would say that the super testers have found that the gun has just been too good, and so they're toning it down a bit. So we shall see. We'll look with interest to see when this tank comes out. At the moment it does look to be quite an interesting beastie, yeah, will we see? Will it become World of WZ51s in the same way that at the moment it's World of Progetto? We'll see. So Harkonnen on Daily Bounce is reporting new testing of a new Grand Battles map. No name for it yet. No, but there's two versions of it apparently. It's a new summertime map with a Soviet setting, both meant to convey the atmosphere of intense, desperate struggle against the Nazi invaders. Okay, well, whatever. And you can see that this is the first version of it. It's designed to be this new way with maps, which I wholly embrace. The fact that there is options for all vehicles involved. There is nothing more disheartening when you click on that button and you get a map come up and you're in one particular class of vehicle that just can't cope with the map that you got, or just doesn't. You just know you're not going to have such a good game with the map that comes up. I mean, that's just disheartening. It's bad enough when you look at your team, but you know, you see the map that's just unsuitable for your vehicle. It's disheartening. So maps like this, which are the new way wargaming seem to be working, of having ones that have a bit for everything. So you've got a nice sort of built up area here, which will be good for the heavies. There's lots of mobility areas around here for the lights and the mediums. It looks like there's going to be some hilltops and what have you for TDs to take position. Even the artillery will have fun. This position here reminds me very much of the D-Day map anyway. But this there's two versions of this, as I say, which I think is good. That's the first one. So this is the classic mix map of different styles of gameplay, which, you know, as I say, I like that. This is another version of it. Second prototype is innovative and asymmetrical, with spawning location positioned in such a way that one of the teams has to play aggressively while the other one has to defend and counterattack. Okay, fair enough. Again, I like, well, as Harkonnen says in this article, he says, yeah, great, and he personally prefers the second one. It's difficult to tell from these flat maps, but you know, I think as he said, why only introduce one? Bring both. We need more maps, so 2 Grand Battle maps would be great, and of course the Grand Battle is the 30v30, so these are big maps, and I like them. I think these look fun. These look really interesting, so thumbs up from here. So smoke screens, anybody? Yeah, your eyes don't deceive you. Well, it's a bit foggy at the moment with the vision. This is apparently a feature they are trying out for the new Frontline game mode. A smoke screen, aka smoke screen what you get in World of Warships, and it's kind of interesting. So you can see it covers quite a large area. I'm assuming that this will be some sort of area effect weapon. So yeah, there you go. Bit like what's it? The artillery strike you get in strongholds and what have you. You'll be able to use this as a frontline feature. Lay the where you want the smoke to land. Click the button, and presumably there's a cooldown period for it. And then it just blankets that area in smoke. There you go. Look at that. It's kind of interesting. I think it's a nice option. I think, you know, I was talking earlier on about being concerned about weather impact. You know, dark and bad weather and what have you, because it has such a big impact. But I think this is because this is a short-term tactical thing. It could be quite interesting. And it clearly reduces the visibility down considerably, as it should, being a smokescreen. So anyway, being tested. We may see it in the next Frontline series, which I think is coming very, very rapidly. So let me know what you think down below. So the Frontlines mode of gameplay will be coming out in this next patch, 1.01. So this is where you have 30v30, one team attacking, one team defending, across very big maps, and the attacker has to basically drive their way through the maps. You get replacement tanks. I think you can now play it on tier 8, not just tier 10, which was what it was originally set up to do. And you can swap your tanks as you go forward. There's sort of recharge points and so forth on various places within the map. Once a sector falls to the attacker, the defender has to get out, or they get obliterated by artillery. You know, the kind of thing. It was quite a fun game. I lost interest in it a little bit when we were playing on tier 10s, but it'd be interesting to see it on tier 8s, and it makes it a lot more open to everybody. So that's coming in this patch that's coming out this week. In fact, I think it's due out today. I'm obviously recording this before it happens, so I'm a little bit vague on that. Depending on how far you get in the mode, and presumably there'll be victory points to be earned, how well you perform. There'll be a variety of new reward camouflages which you can put on your tank to show off that you did very well. So there's one set for the Russian, Polish, Czech and Chinese tanks. There's one set for the French, UK, US and Swedish tanks, and one for the German, Italian and Japanese tanks. So there you go. Interesting. I look forward to Frontline. I will give it a good go this time, especially with tier 8 tanks. I think that'll be fun. But let me know down below if you're going to give it a go. I'd be interested to see. I didn't play it on the test server, and maybe I should have done, but it coincided with me being away on business quite a bit, so I didn't have quite the time to spend on the test server as I would normally do. Frontlines, I think, you know, a bit of variety, something different. We all like a bit of something different, don't we? Ooh, misses. So, as Harkonnen suggests here on Daily Bounce, maybe a good time to take a long holiday if you're on the EE server through May, because Top of the Tree is probably the most, well, not probably, it is the most overpowered tank in the game right now. The Object 268 version 4, the Russian tier 10 tank destroyer, Just the most ridiculously good tank at the moment. Mobile, great armor, and an amazing gun. I mean, the only thing slightly dodgy about it is the reload time on it is somewhat slower. Just means it can't dish out the damage quite as quickly as it would probably want to, but it's top of the tree through May, so that means you will see loads of them, even more than there are now out there. You'll see even more. On the positive side, it does mean that if you're trying to grind your way through that tech tree to get to it, so you can join the other well, you know, whatever, you're getting discount on the tier 2 to tier 5 versions on the tank, on this tech tree, so 50% off the 81 through to the Su 85, 30% off everything else, so 6 to 10. So if you're looking to buy them, a good time to do it. I'm struggling my way through the Su 101. I can't get that to work for me. Considering I like TDs and I like assault gun type TDs, fast moving ones, I really struggle with the Su 101. I don't know why, but I would like to get up. Maybe I'll use this as an incentive to push through. So that's good. You'll also get missions if you are driving the OP one. You get, well, yeah, you get double crew experience if you finish in the top 10 of a winning team, up to 50 times in the month. There's also personal reserves, 10 personal reserves for 100% XP for 2 hours and 300% crew experience for 2 hours when you get 50 tokens. So yeah, very, very nice indeed. Expect on the EU server to see even more of these Object 268 version 4s out there. Good luck. So for those of you on the North American server, I always love the fact they tell you in advance what they're doing, and particularly around the sales. I don't understand the secrecy there is on the EU server for these sort of things. So anyway, premium tank sales on the May the 8th, the Berlin Quartet will be there in a modified package. It'll be the Berlin 5. So I wonder whether that's going to be the T-34 with the extra plating on it. It'll be interesting. So the current quartet is the Cromwell B, the ISU 122S, the Rudy, and the IS-2. Those are the 4 in the Berlin Quartet. So they're saying there'll be a 5th in that package on May the 8th. So watch with interest to see what that is. Special events through the month, you've got Memorial Day, VE Day, Cinco de Mayo Day, other bonuses throughout the thing. So 4th to the 7th, assault missions, Cinco de Mayo ×2 crew XP weekend, 8th to the 15th, a top secret. Keep an eye on your garage. Okay, we'll be intrigued to see what that is. May the 11th to the 14th, ×3 XP weekend, 18th to 21st, missions plus ×2 crew XP weekend, and May the 25th to 29th, Memorial Day weekend special. So that's good. May is the anniversary of victory in Europe, when the Allies accepted Germany's unconditional surrender in 1942. 4th to the 7th, May the 4th be with you. Oh my god, what kind of joke is that? And 8th to 9th, VE Day celebrations. On track through the month, so this is where you get discounts, a bit like the top of the tree in the EU server, but they do 2 on the North American server for split the month up, which I think is a better way to do it. T57 Heavy and the IS-7 for the second half of the month. So that's your specials there. Ace Tanker badge. I wish we did this. I really wish we did this on the EU server. So for those who don't know this, on the North American server, if you ace the tank that is in the Ace Tanker missions that week, you get a special badge, and it's kind of a fun thing, right? I like it. So you can see here it varies, all sorts of different tanks, and if you are particularly good in your tank, you got a chance of earning a special badge, and I think that's fun. So the god awful Grant in the first week, there you go. So you can see them all there. Lots of different tanks, lots of different options. So yeah, that's your North American May options. So I hope you found that useful and interesting. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. If you've got any comments, love to hear from you all in the chat down below. We usually have a fairly frank and fulsome discussion down there about some of the changes, some of the ideas, some of the things that are coming up in World of Tanks. Love to see your views, particularly for some of the newer viewers. Don't be afraid of the locals. Many of them don't bite. Some do, obviously, so you just got to be careful of those. Love to know your views and thoughts. It's one of the things I really enjoy about this channel, more than I imagined actually when I started it a couple of years ago now. How much I love the interaction with people in the chat. It's great fun. So anyway, let me know what you think down below. Really grateful for that. And in the meantime, enjoy your games, have fun, enjoy patch 1.01 and the Italian tanks, and I will see you soon. This is Gamer Dom signing out.